Aren't you afraid he'll get away?
Heavens no, not with the shackle.
Introducing the Shackle, the revolutionary new way of servant monitoring. Just place the shackle around his or her wrist, and when your property strays from your designated area, in minutes, the authorities have your chattel in custody. The secret? Inside the shackle is a space-age computer monitoring chip, allowing the police to track your slippery buck on radar. In no time, he's back home in his cabin. Made of lightweight aluminum alloys, the shackle won't weight your uncle down like old-fashioned chains. And it's tough. The shackle will stand up to the most strenuous of escape attempts. It's unbreakable. It comes in a variety of sizes, perfect for children, and at the low, low price of $49.95. Why wait? Step into the 21st century. Get the shackle.
Aren't you going to stay for coffee?
Can't. Gotta get the shackle.
Have your credit card ready or send $49.95 check or money order to the shackle. The shackle keeps them in line every time. Operators are standing by.
Tonight, right after Animal House, Eric Estrada and Howard Hessman meet the Dream Girls.
Hi.
Of every man's fantasy.
I'll just knock you dead.
Morgan Fairchild, Linda Carter, Kathy Lee Crosby, Victoria Principal, and much, much more. They're the sexiest super ladies on the scene. They're the women who rate a 10 later tonight.
I bought the fresh stick, just as you told me. You're absolutely right. It's neat and quick, and it goes on dry. It did make me feel cool and sweet, just as you said. I did everything you said, but my boss still hasn't asked me to lunch.
Unlike some deodorants, Fresh doesn't guarantee you'll get ahead in business. All Fresh does is keep you fresh.
When you think of it, that's quite a lot.
Down home.
At the Coon Chicken Inn, we aim to please. The best 100% Mammy-made family-style meals. You can taste the love.
I like the white meats. I'm a breast man.
We just love it here.
You'll just keep hollering, gal, fetch me some more. Look for that wide-mouthed coon near you.
Coon Chicken Inn.
Servant etiquette and proper table linens for formal dinner parties, how to be the belle of the ball, and what to look for when buying a Chinese gardener on the next Better Homes and Plantations. It's a good thing.
Aloha. With this video, I wanted to run down some of the main things that I'm seeing that are being attacked by this parasitic consciousness, and how it relates to, jumping off the last video, how it relates to psychological warfare, spiritual warfare, and actual physical warfare.
Your squad is ready for you to lead them through. With Johnny 7 OMA, you charge. Fire grenade. Bullseye for Johnny 7. Watch out, tank. Fire anti-armor shell. Fire anti-tank rocket. Johnny 7's got him on the run. Johnny 7 fires bullets like a rifle. Fires like a Tommy gun. Now it's a cap-firing pistol. You've won with Johnny 7, the one-man army gun. It's 7 guns in one. Let's count them. 1 is a grenade launcher. 2 anti-armor gun. 3 anti-tank gun. 4 bullet-firing rifle. 5 Tommy gun. 6 anti-bunker gun. 7 cap-firing pistol. There's no other gun like it. To be sure, look for Johnny 7, OMA, the one-man army by Topper.
And really just kind of lay it all out in reference to some of the slides that I have, some of the little clips that you're going to see, and see what we can do to kind of defend ourselves from this non-physical war that's going on that completely trumps the physical warfare when you come from the perspective that the physical warfare is an extension of the non-physical warfare, the psychological and the spiritual warfare. So the main thing that's happening is we are being confined by our own definitions, the definitions that have been presented to us by a particular mindset, a particular consciousness, or a consciousness, parasitic consciousness, has convinced you of your reality. From birth to death, every definition that you have has been given to you. So this is like setting a baby in front of a television for their entire life. The only thing you do is give them the food that comes on the commercial to keep them happy, so they don't ask questions about why they're watching a television for their entire life. They sit there and they watch that television, which is their life, played out for them, by them, and this parasitic consciousness, so that they don't go into pretty much channeling their own inner space, their own expression of all that is. Like, why did you wake up in the morning? If you have this potential that goes beyond this physical reality, why have you still chosen to wake up within this physical reality? Oh, well, come on down and check this out. This is why you woke up this morning.
Good morning, dear.
Good morning, sweetie birdie.
I'm out of coffee.
You're out of coffee. Isn't that wonderful? Out of coffee?
What a time to run out. And why run out? Now there's a new giant-size Instant Maxwell House. A really big jar of coffee. New giant-size Instant Maxwell House gives you cups and cups and cups. Dozens of extra cups of the coffee with that warm bean flavor. Warm bean flavor because it's made from coffee beans still warm from roasting. That's why new Instant Maxwell House is the freshest tasting coffee yet. So to make sure you've always got plenty of coffee for the man in your house, get the new giant-size Instant Maxwell House. You won't have to run out again.
So they'll give you all of your definitions, and it'll be sold to you in a way that you think it's wonderful, because you think it's a part of the previous generations, the previous definitions that were given to the previous generations before you. So it's one after another, one after another. Like, if this particular generation is going to be bought and sold with this kind of consciousness, then that's what will be sold by the television that they've been sat in front of forever. So I kind of just want to breeze through this and kind of, as much as possible. I know sometimes when I get on a roll, I say I want to have a short video, and then all of a sudden it's like 2 hours long, but I don't know what's going to happen. I'm hoping it's a short video, but if it's not, oh well, it's supposed to be what it is. So this image right here you're looking at is one I showed in the last video, but I didn't really go into it. But Miss Universe Israel and Miss Universe Iraq took a picture together and called for peace between the Jews and Muslim. So what does that mean? Like, what is peace? Like, peace, when you're talking about something as complex as what's going on in that whole scenario, when you're saying, oh, we call for peace, it completely kills exactly the depths of what's going on here. You're asking for some kind of shallow layer. It's just like Republicans and Democrats, and I'll get into that in a second. But I wanted to share this to get into what that actually, how far it goes into distracting us from, really doing something. So this is all a facade. So it's just like love. Like, somebody who's been, or a couple who's been married for however long, like 50 years or something like that. Like, you can't shrink all of that life. You can't shrink all of that experience. You can't shrink all of that quote unquote love down to a word, a 4-letter word called love. Like, it doesn't make any difference. So the same thing happens with something as complex as what's going on in Israel with the Palestinian and Jews and everything that's going on pretty much all over the world. You can't shrink that down into a word called peace. But they'll tell you that. They'll televise that. They'll put that out there. Why? Because that's like a superhero thing. It's just like a thing that you can love and cherish and hope to be a part of and everything. So these are these like McDonald's drive-through kind of doggy treats that are being projected into our reality as if the system has any concern for the people within that system, as if these conflicts aren't existing by the numbers, as if they don't exist on purpose. They don't have a meaning and purpose there. Of course they have a meaning and purpose. Of course all of these wars are being played by both sides of the so-called power structure. This is all on purpose. But when they make it real for you by putting actors and real people and politicians and people in the news and movies, when they do that, they make it real for you based upon that level of consciousness.
Fall out here means more than corralling a young buck. It's a time of crisp, clean morning air and the sound of thundering stampede. It's a time when horses come down from the high pasture and a man prepares for another tough winter. It's time for a nigger hair, an American cigarette.
Once it becomes real for you at that level of consciousness, that's when you start to define yourself. You accept, adopt, and pass down those definitions of yourself, those beliefs of yourself down to your next generations, your children. You pass that down. So everything that's going on in this system is being passed down. And ultimately, all of the systems that are out there are to distract you from the root causes, to distract you from what's going on a deeper layer. So like when they're prosecuting people like Harry Weinstein and Kevin Spacey and all these other people that are in the limelight, when they're supposedly prosecuting them for all this pedophilia and sexual abuse and all this other stuff, they're never, for example, when they focus on one individual, they're not really focusing on the culture of pedophilia. They're not focusing on the culture of sexualizing the minds of not only the children, but these adults. So they don't focus on the cause. They focus on the effect because you can make a profit off of the effect. But the causes are going into the root structure. Once you start going into the cause of one thing, then you pretty much recalibrate your consciousness to perceive your reality from a different layer from a different eye. So like in reference to the last video, your third eye. Well, your two eyes are your third eye. The artificial third eye exists in order to give you a confirmation of pretty much the two eyes. So the two eyes are what you see, what you perceive in this reality from a government and political perspective and all that other stuff. That is the foundation to why the artificial third eye exists, to have an escape mechanism, a non-physical escape world. That's what the New Age community is. It never really does anything with the information. It just says, let's have peace between the Jews and the Muslims. That's all it does. That's what the New Age community is. It's there to give you your definition, and in that definition, they give you your beliefs. When they give you your beliefs, they give you your consciousness. And once all of those systems have been installed into your reality, you are the only one responsible for digging yourself out of that hole. Heliocentrism is a hole like that. The education system is a hole. Politics, Hollywood, all of this stuff, it's just a giant hole. And all of these, like an image like this and the Kevin Spacey stuff, is to distract you from what's going on at the foundation. Who's digging these holes for the consciousness of the masses to climb in? So the 3 holes that I wanted to focus on in this video are the idea of sex, as in masculine and feminine, the idea of race, and then the idea of the ego. So these are the 3 things that are being attacked. These are the 3 things that are being attacked right now. And to finish off with this image that you're looking at right now, if you read the bottom, it goes even further than that. But this is what happens within the system. Once the system, this is the bully programming. Once the system gets called out for what it's actually doing, they'll just change the goal. They'll just move the goalpost. They'll move the goal line. They'll make the world adjust around what it is that they have been doing for so long, so they don't get recognized for what's going on. So they try to normalize into the society the crimes that have been committed. This is why some people believe war is peace. As much as shitty as that feels, people believe that. Why? Because they've been indoctrinated into that belief system. If they can trick you into thinking that war brings peace and that you'll pay for that, what makes you think they won't do some shit like this and start legalizing something like pedophilia? It's already going on. And this is how everybody's being prepped and kind of chatteled into that thought process with the whole Obama in the White House, having those lights of the gay flag or the LGBT flag, like all over the White House, and all this gay talk and trans this and trans that. Like, it's a pop thing. That's the thing. Like, even the thing with Caitlyn Jenner, like, this is a pop thing. Anything pop, you're going to have to see the deeper layer of why it's pop. And then you think about the things that are pop today, and then go back, time travel back to the things that were pop 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and see what kind of mind control programming they were playing for you back then. See what kind of things your grandparents and other people's grandparents, see what kind of belief systems they are living within right now, based upon the mind control programs that were conditioned into their reality back then.
These are the faces of contrary. With contrary, one little blue pill gives all-day control. Side effects may include vomiting, shortness of breath, nausea, blurred vision, liver and kidney problems, constipation, and anal bleeding. Contrary has been known to cause heart attack in some old uncles. Contrary is not meant for servants who are nursing or about to drop a litter. Ask your veterinarian about contrary today.
So, a question that I had later was, like, I was listening to a live stream, and it was a lot of Bible talk and flat earth talk with the Bible and that whole thing. And I was just asking myself in that moment, like, how would we interpret this reality if the Bible did not exist? Like, if it, for this moment, just take a deep breath, and when you finish that exhale, like, imagine perceiving your reality without the Bible existing. Like, imagine like that. And then without, like, religions, mainstream religions, you would have the responsibility. You personally would have to own the responsibility of making your own connection, your own deepest connection to the Most High. You know how strong people would get if they were challenging themselves to do that? No. They can't have people with that kind of strength. So they have to put something into your reality. They have to install some kind of belief system into your reality so that you don't do that. Because if you start questioning the foundations, the pillars of something like the Bible, mainstream religions, then you can easily start to disassemble the mind control programs of this mainstream control grid, this colonial control grid. But if you are still locking yourself into an external, a synthetic, an artificial reality that has been promoted into your generations before you, that this is the way your reality is, and that's going to take a long time. It's going to exponentially, that weight from your great grandparents to your grandparents and to your mother to you, it's going to just weigh itself down. It's going to weigh on you and inherently weigh you down, because the name of the game is to have all of this density exist, act like it doesn't exist, and don't do anything with it. By the time you figure it out, if you do, you're already 1 foot in the tomb, getting ready to kick off into another experience. And by the time you get to that experience, you already had like 10 grandkids, 3 kids, and like you've already created a timeline that will just repeat itself based upon self-destruction, based upon the definition, the confinement of the definitions promoted to us by this system, this hopeless repeating history, repeating itself timeline. Because we never get out of the cloud, we never get out of the bubble of the distraction grid. So we give ourselves away to an artificial ego. We give ourselves away to an artificial interpretation of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. We start watering it down with the mainstream religions. We start watering our culture down with pop culture and mainstream interpretations of this reality. By the time all of those things are accepted as our reality, the entire world had already been poisoned, both physically and non-physically. Before they put plastics in the ocean, they had to first spiritually disconnected you from your responsibility to caretaking for the ocean. This was the attack on the indigenous people. And that goes for the entire natural system. Before they could before they could have had you being cool with war brings peace, they had to first spiritually disconnect you from your brothers and sisters based upon some kind of law, some kind of separation, some kind of line. That's where all this nationalism comes in. And religion backs that up with this is why they say God bless America, because it instantaneously makes it real based upon your deepest layers of interpreting your reality. So you have your idea of yourself with your ego. So they give you the artificial ego, and then they simultaneously start to destroy the idea of the ego, which is just you, like an expression of you, no different than like how you look. Like you've chosen to look this way for a particular reason. You've also chosen to speak this way, to have this kind of accent. So that's basically how, and I'll get into this in a second, because this is a very big part of the watering down of your consciousness, watering down of your entire culture. And it's one of the main things in the New Age community that not a lot of people focus on, because there's so many different perspectives out there. So with this video, I just wanted to share mine on that whole thing. So they have the watering down of the idea of the ego. They're already watering down the strength, the power of both the divine masculine and the divine feminine with the whole LGBT stuff and this whole pedophilia stuff that they're running around out there. It's just a big ass distraction from that which most empowers you. When you balance out yourself in your reality, you start to strengthen yourself within every single moment, every single experience, every encounter starts to become, you start to exponentially grow your consciousness. Once you stop fighting yourself. See, the system itself is designed to maintain self-destruction from the inside out. So the main self-destructive programs that are out there are people having difficulty with, figuring out if they're a man or a woman. People having difficulty figuring out, what their race is. They have no connection to the earth because they have no connection to their culture or their people. They have no connection to any kind of non-physical reality, the Most High, any kind of creative intelligence, balances with nature, universal laws. None of that shit exists in the mainstream individual, because if that individual were to perceive a lot of those perspectives from the inside out as opposed from the outside in, these belief systems that get cast upon us from the outside in, if they were started to interpret these realities from the inside out, that would create a strength, an inner strength that will grow exponentially within each experience, each encounter. It's non-linear intelligence. This is basically like this tapping into, it's not exactly like your subconscious, but it's basically like bridging the intelligence of the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, the masculine and the feminine. And as long as you're locked into one of the hemispheres, the patriarchal program, you're going to interpret your reality from a linear perspective. If you're going to interpret your reality from a linear perspective, every move that you make is well known. That's why all this flat earth going mainstream stuff out there is so obviously a part of a controlled opposition, whether they know it or not, the people who are involved in that mentality. It's so obviously a controlled opposition because of how linear it is. It's like, let's just do this. Well, if you're just doing this, then you're repeating the same act. You're repeating the same actions that the people before us did, and they didn't realize the depths of the programming. Once the depths of the programming are cast to the side, they're just like not even recognized because there's been so much garbage that's been piled up on top of that. Then you have people who are floating in limbo and they need something to lock them into their reality. Insert Christianity or the mainstream religions, insert politics and so-called democracy and so-called capitalism, insert heliocentrism, the American dream, everything out there that the TV celebrates, social media, all of it. Put all that in the gaps that are in people. The people are so empty, so hollowed out. You're hollowed out because you don't know what the divine masculine and divine feminine is. You don't know. You have no meaning and purpose when you wake up in the morning because you have no meaning and no purpose in this entire existence. They tell you that you're just nothing. You're just a cosmic mistake that was shot out of the Big Bang. What kind of reality is that? It's a reality of inherent zombies who are living on a linear timeline, who are only going to be able to move as fast as the system tells them, as efficiently as the system has told them. So back to the original question, how would people interpret this reality without the influence of somebody else's belief system? How would you interpret this reality without heliocentrism already being there to have you fight it? That's what I'm saying. It's already a damn illusion. If you are in the umpteenth degree of realizing what's going on here with this not globe reality, then you have to start asking questions and answering those questions from the inside out. The thing is, people get to that point, become proud of themselves because they're different than round or globe earthers, and then they just stay there and they don't ask any questions and don't get anywhere because the pride has held them in that space of I'm smarter than you, I'm better than you. Yes, some people are helping people wake up or whatever like that. They're using that. But what I'm saying is that you can simultaneously do that by simultaneously asking yourself these questions and creating a dialogue between people that inherently starts to break down the mind control programs that are in and around that have the same algorithms of heliocentrism. So heliocentrism as an alchemy is an algorithm. So that algorithm works a particular way. That algorithm is the same algorithm that works in reference to race relations, mainstream race relations, mainstream religious relations, and so on and so forth. Everything that comes out of that mainstream reality. What I'm saying is that it's nobody else's responsibility other than the individual to start to ask and answer the questions that come about once all of that garbage is moved out of your reality. So what's happening is the system knows that people are starting to remove the garbage out of their reality. They're making space and filling that space with something real. The system knows that. The system knows that this information is being filtered through people's own algorithms. Their own inner algorithm is starting to throw all of the nonsense that comes up from this mainstream reality into the dump. They're throwing it into the recycling bin, and then it's done. It's being worked exponentially rather than the system just constantly beating down on people. So once that is known by the system now has to install another layer of mind control into your reality. So in reference to race, what they're doing is they're saying, we're all human. Race doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, you hear that. You hear how my tone changed. How there's like a speed to it. It's because that exists inside the mainstream reality of how they're promoting it through the new age and through this hatred and all this other stuff. People jump from one extreme to another extreme. And that's exactly what the system wants people to do. Because what happens in that space is that everything gets watered down. You go from one answer of hatred and fear to the other answer of love and light, but nothing really gets done. The math doesn't get worked. Algorithms don't get destroyed and algorithms don't get created. Inner algorithms don't get created and external algorithms don't get destroyed. What happens is other external algorithms get created and they get adopted by the people who have just jumped from one extreme to another extreme. They jump from one answer sheet looking in the back of the book for the answer to the other one, but they didn't get the actual answer because the answer is not in the answer. The answer is in the work done to get to the answer, whatever that answer is for whatever subject it is. So you have people in the New Age community who are reading a Cliff's Notes of the answer at best of what's going on in this reality, because it's not even this reality. It's an illusory reality. They created another universe, and the only way they can get people to do that is if they make it entertaining and easy. So all of this indoctrination with the alien programming, the ancient aliens on History Channel, the Bigfoot stuff and the alien abduction stuff on Destination America, your alien agenda programming in Hollywood, your politicians, you're talking about, the aliens surrounding who was that? Reagan talking about that, a threat from space and all. They make this shit real for you. By the time it's all done, you have 100,000 mind control programs that you kind of believe in, but there's so many of them, it becomes your reality.
I can't type. I don't take dictation. I won't sharpen pencils. I can't file. My boss calls me indispensable.
Miss Jones,
Just a minute.
will you make a copy of this?
Naturally. I pushed the button on the Xerox 914. I make perfect copies of whatever my boss needs by just turning a knob and pushing a button. Anything he can see, I can copy in black and white on ordinary paper. And am I fast? I can make 7 copies in a minute. By the way, I never need wet chemicals. My 914 is a dry machine, powder dry. Sometimes my boss asks me which is the original, and sometimes I don't know. Here, Mr. Smith, I'm going to lunch with Mother.
So that's how this system banks on controlling you. It's by installing so many different ways to perceive your reality, to take your strength, separate you from your strength, and install an artificial version of strength, install artificial muscles into your reality. And then once you are building yourself up with all these artificial muscles, and then they tell you, no, you need to be stronger in this kind of way, then people start taking these steroids within the artificial world. Strength has nothing to do with your muscles in reference to the non-physical strength that predates or presupposes the physical strength. This is why everything is so focused on the way you look. Like on Instagram, it's all about doing squats and getting a big booty. Like, are you focusing on the health, or are you focusing on the way you look? See, this is another thing that's out there that separates you from who and what you, it like makes you hate yourself. So like certain people have certain body types. So you have, like, for instance, you have some women or some cultures that naturally have like big, like shapely round booties, and other people that don't. See, what happens is once, like, are those people who don't unhealthy? Like, is something wrong with them? Of course not. But since the culture has decided to use this as a trigger mechanism or something to look up to be proud of, they've sold it into the reality. The society is going to adjust to that. What happens is, at the same time people are adjusting to that, you have to understand that there are side effects to that. So people are hating themselves. You're not only hating your body for being naturally what it is, you're hating your culture, inherently hating your culture and your people, because they don't look the way the society of today has told them to look and act. This goes for race, this goes for body types, this goes for religions. The same, what do you think's going on with the Christian Muslim thing that's going on? God bless America. They're talking about the blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus God to bless America against the other gods that don't look like blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus, who's the coolest one in the world. This is why you get that Jesus character on Family Guy. They make it real for you. So you pride yourself, just like people pride themselves in big booties right now, trying to go to the gym and do all these damn squats so they look a certain way. Ain't gonna change nothing on the inside. You still an empty ass individual on the inside and ain't done nothing for the expansion of your consciousness of the love of yourself. You've only convinced yourself that you got more love for yourself because you working your ass every day. You running away. Going to the gym ain't nothing but a fucking cigarette. It's a packet of cigarettes. That's what going to the gym is. It's just a different kind of cigarette. You went from smoking Newports to smoking Marlboros, thinking that it's better for you.
They sure work hard, don't they, Barney? Yeah? I hate to see them work so hard. Yeah, me too. Let's go around back where we can't see them. Gee, we ought to do something, Fred. Okay. How's about taking a nap? Hey, I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston break.
That's it. Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack. Winston's got that filter blend.
Yeah, Fred. Filter blend makes the big taste difference, and only Winston has it up front where it counts. Here, ahead of the pure white filter. Winston packs rich tobaccos specially selected and specially processed for good flavor in filter smoking.
Yeah, Barney, Winston tastes good, like a cigarette should.
The Flintstones has been brought to you by Winston, America's best-selling, best-tasting filter cigarette.
Winston tastes good like a cigarette should.
So you existing in this reality, you existing here, is a form of art. Who's the artist there? Well, you are there as the art form and the experiencer. You are also not doing this by yourself. As easily as I can break it down, your relationship with the Most High, whatever creative intelligence that predates the creative and destructive intelligence of this dualistic reality, you and the creative intelligence has decided, okay, well, we're going to experience this reality this way. You're going to interact in this reality from this way. But when you get here, the reality also has rules. It also has algorithms. And what happens is the so-called powers that be, the individuals who only give a shit about themselves, have manipulated the rules of this experience at the expense of the non-physical relationships that you have and had before you were born into this experience. Once you buy into the illusory definitions and algorithms of this experience that have been manipulated by the programmers of this place, then that's when you go from being exponentially growing, you go from that to a battery. You go from strength and expansion of your consciousness and engaging within this world for whatever it was that you intended to do before you got here, to de-evolving yourself down to a battery. And who you are as an individual before you got here, like the soul, like that energy, well, it's extremely complex, so it's not going to be like a definite definition, but it really does kind of boil down to like what it is that you're doing. Like you're going to be more susceptible to certain things based upon your previous experiences. This is how I perceive my reality. This is just another way that I have perceived my reality, and this is just my style of interpreting it, and it's constantly growing. So how I see it is that each experience will allow you a baseline energy. When you get there, if you're going to have to use that, like your strengths, you're going to have to do something with those strengths. If you don't even know what your strengths are, you will fall. You will fall based upon the system. That's why the system wants to water down your strengths of the divine femininity, the divine masculinity, your strengths of a relationship, the responsibility to a most high creative intelligence or creator, or whatever you want to call it, and wants to dumb down your relationship to you, your soul, your expression, your voice. This is where the whole ego thing comes in. So I'll get into that in a second. But because everybody understands the war on sex, the war on the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the war on your relationship to the non-physical. But not many people understand or have gone into the war on like who you are, your soul, from the perspective of the idea of the ego. because there's no less than two egos. How I'm going to explain it in this place is in this thing is the ego. So you have the ego, which is just another word for, if you play around with the letters, you'll see geo in there, or like the land. So how I see it, the ego is of you, the organic ego is the expression, the geological or the geographic expression through the human experience of your soul. That's who you are. As the true ego is your voice, your style, like what kind of music you would make, what kind of rhythms you would do. That's you. But that is a threat to the system, because if you start playing your music and you meet somebody from across the earth who starts playing their music, and you come together and you guys didn't even know each other, and you start playing music that starts telling a story about the system that has nothing to do with the mind control programs that they have put out there for you, that's an inherent threat to the system. This is why the system has to take out people who are strong, who are very confident and speaking their truth from the inside out. That's not based upon the external mind control programs, politics, television, so on and so forth. So this is why certain people have to be removed. This is why the Black Panthers was attacked so much, because their main thing, they were making school lunches. The Patty program was still alive and well, and they just called it school lunch, all this other stuff. But the Patty program started, it was like the breakfast for the kids. The same thing that the Black Panthers were doing. The Black Panthers was 70% women. So the Black Panthers was more focused on the community, but they only wanted to expose, they only wanted to expose to the masses of people that these guys were, against America. They were like against this. This is the same thing that's going on today when you bring up race relations. Oh, you're this, or you bring up even religious relations. Oh, you're against America. Like, this is how this sensitive ass bully, that's what this America mind control program is, this United States of America mind control program. It's a sensitive ass bully. It's a bully that will beat the shit out of everything and everybody in the name of God. But as soon as it starts to be exposed of being a bully, it flips on the victim card and becomes a victim of whatever it is that's in their moment.
Oh no.
What's wrong?
Oh, it's your coffee again. The desk sergeant at the station makes better coffee than this.
Ed, really?
Sorry, honey, but your coffee tastes terrible.
Mr. McGregor, please help me.
Carol, what's the matter?
My coffee. Ed says he gets better coffee at the police station.
Why not try new Instant Folgers?
Instant Folgers?
No, I said new Instant Folgers, Carol. Tastes good as fresh perked, because it's made from fresh perked coffee. Then they actually turn that fresh perked coffee into new Instant Folgers.
Tastes good as fresh perked because it is. Fresh perked. Mr. McGregor, I'll try it.
Hey, the Sarge never made coffee like this.
It's new Instant Folgers. Tastes good as fresh perked.
I like it better.
Try new Instant Folgers. Tastes good as fresh perked, because it is.
Once people have seen, have prided themselves in the bully program, they've installed a belief system into the individual. Once people get on the side of the victim program, they've installed a belief into the individual. And what happens? The true interpretation of what's really going on here is not really understood. That's the same thing that's going on here. They'll show you these pretty faces. Oh, Miss Universe. Oh, how wonderful. They're speaking up. They're stepping out. Great. But what are they saying? Peace. Okay. What does that mean? Exactly. They couldn't tell you anything. They don't know what they're saying. They're using this as publicity stunts. And then they'll televise this in order to keep that shallow interpretation of the reality going on, to keep from going into deeper storylines. So the same thing's going on with like This image that you're looking at right now. How cannabis is fueling a fitness movement. What the fuck are you talking about? Why are you focusing on this and not having a dialogue about all the people who are in jail right now who should have never been in jail in the first place? They're never going to talk about that because that's money in the bank. The prison is the bank. The people are the money. That's money in the bank when you get people in prison. So they develop all of these ways to get that money in the bank, these laws to get those people in the prisons. They develop all these systems. They put guns in the community. They put drugs in the community. They give you a shitty education. They mind control you to act a certain way with the movies, with the music. By the time it's all said and done, by the time you get out of high school and whatever, you only have about 3 options: drugs, crime, or the military. Drugs, crime, or the military. That's your 3 options right there. The other option is a non-option. You can't even survive. The minimum wage, you can't survive off minimum wage. You can't. Like, this is the design of the system. It's a funnel. They're channeling the consciousness to act a certain way so they can make a profit off of dumbass people who will never be strong enough to ask any questions and never be smart enough to ask the right fucking questions. You're surrounded by people who are doing this fucking Vogue runway cannabis fitness bullshit, who are priding themselves in this new revolution of, and they don't give a fuck about the fact of the matter that is at the foundation of this whole program. They don't care because they've been trained that way. They've been conditioned that way, desensitized to not give a fuck, to only care about themselves. That's what this whole shit is. That's what that whole new age programming is. That's what the whole alien agenda, the whole technology, let's go to Mars. What the fuck are you going to Mars for? You ain't done nothing right in this place. You think you can go to Mars? That's all a mind control program. This cannabis fitness shit, that's just like going to Mars. Why are you going to spend all that money going to Mars? You ain't been here yet. You never showed up to Earth. You don't know what Earth is. Talking about you going to Mars. Sit your simple ass down. So all this heal your all the stuff that's going on is to keep you from healing your generations prior. Because the only way you can heal yourself is to understand, and understand what happened to the previous generations before you. If you cast that to the side, which the New Age community is a master of doing, if you cast that to the side, you will only be activating a small percentage of your reality. You'll be activating your perception of this reality without the grounding of the physical reality antenna, which has a meaning and has a purpose. But the thing is, there's so much information in the non-physical reality. There's so much information that we've been held back from, that people can actually live entire lives. They can create an entire person without having a connection to the physical reality, without being grounded. That's what the New Age community is banking on. Because if you disconnect yourself from the physical antenna, that means that you created an opening, a gap in one part of your reality, at least a third of your reality, your physical reality. On basics, just to break it down basically. So like your soul, your mind, and your body. Obviously, your non-physical is 99% of yourself, but just for an explanation, your physical, your psychological, or your mind and your soul are 3 different things that are of the same thing. And this system knows that. So this thing that is the physical has been demonized. It's been turned into a piece of shit. They said, you're nothing. You're empty at best. You're an evolved monkey. And since we've reached the evolutionary peak of evolved monkeys, the only thing to do next is to install technology into your evolved monkey body. because we give you your answers. So once people have bought into that reality, they're done. And the only way they can buy into their reality is if they have been disconnected from their culture, their true interpretations of this reality. Everything that I've been listing off. That's the intent, to install this synthetic perspective, the synthetic universe, the synthetic ego, the synthetic masculine, the synthetic feminine. Doesn't even exist anymore. They're just telling, oh, we're just all human, and we just, just water everything down so they can use the battery that they've convinced you to be for whatever it is that they want to utilize you for. So your expression of yourself is no more than just a battery to produce energy for this broken ass system. And since this broken ass system is filled with so many Happy Meals, you just blindly do it and don't ask any questions. And in fact, if anybody else asks any questions, you tell them to shut up because they got a computer, or they're cool because they have clothes on they're living here, and they go to the city and shop at the supermarket. You mean to tell me you don't like this? You know what you're defending? You're defending genocide. When you take that position, you're defending every single broken down ass perspective that this mainstream reality has put into your belief system. You're defending it because you have nothing else to fill that space with other than somebody else's belief system. That's the saddest shit out there. And this is the mainstream thing. You have people defending somebody else's belief system because they are so fucking empty that they don't have any kind of ounce of self in them. They have no connection with any kind of creative intelligence, any kind of most high, no connection with nature, no connection with a critical thought outside of the bullshit that's promoted by this system. So they defend it.
I'm Caroline. Try me. I'll take you on a trip you'll never forget. I'll bring you your lunch. I'll hang up your coat for you and let you watch movies. I'll take your little old mind off flying. By the time I've finished, you won't even know you've been on an airplane, because that's exactly what will have happened. Because I work in Acme Car Wash as a hostess. So come on down to Acme, and while your car is being washed, let little old Caroline clean you out, too. And while you're there, how about a hot wax?
So this image that you're looking at right now, heal your inner feminine by forgiving your mother for the time she let her own pain manifest into yours. This is a true statement because this is the intent, because period, but also because this is the intent of this system, to destroy generations. They don't care about what's happening right now because they've already done planned for 100 years out. So if that's the case, what's happening right now, supposedly happening right now, is all meant to maintain an illusion, a distraction. This is the synthetic ego of the synthetic mass consciousness. So just as much as you can have somebody thinking that they're just king shit because they're the department supervisor at Office Depot or whatever, that becomes their ego. They've been working there for like 25 years and that's their life. They create an artificial ego around that. It's all based upon the system. Well, the same thing has happened, can happen, and has happened to society as a whole. It's created a department supervisor of the world called the democracy or capitalism. And they go around beating the shit out of people, bullying people, creating all of this strife so they can build another Office Depot. But instead of an Office Depot, they're building oil fields, military bases. They're sending their contractors in there to do whatever it is that they're going to do to build the community after they fucking destroyed it when it was not supposed to be destroyed in the first place. Mind your own damn business. When you're coming from that perspective, they're just like, oh yeah, well, we're just going to take this over. Meanwhile, they're using systems of destruction, destructive intelligence to build up the destructive programming. Meanwhile, you get to a storyline of like the Rohingya, which I think is the last one. The Muslims in Myanmar, or it used to be Burma. You have the Muslims out there who are being persecuted, raped, and killed, basically genocided by the Buddhists of Myanmar. The culture, because the government is Buddhist backed, just like here in the United States, our country is Christian backed. And it's the same thing. It's not about the system. That's why I say when you're talking about government Christianity and government Buddhism, you're not talking about Buddhism and Christianity anymore. You're talking about a sword. You're talking about a weapon. Once they weaponize religion, it has no essence anymore. It's been weaponized. Christianity has been weaponized, both on a massive scale and on a singular scale. So all of the good shit that's in there, great. Take it for what it is. But if you hold on to it and you turned it into some kind of golden calf, or you turned it into some kind of belief system that you will defend to the death, you have maxed your consciousness out on the system, out on the individuals who created a consciousness for you to believe in. And some people max themselves out at a book called the Bible. Some people max themselves out of any of the mainstream religions. And is there anything wrong with that? No, that's the individual making their choice. But best believe I'm going to say something about it, because I was being sucked into that world at one point. I was being told that, you know, this is the way to be and this is how you're supposed to. So once I escaped that, I'm just going to share my perspective now. Anybody else can do whatever it is they're going to do. But for my friends and my godchildren and so on and so forth, my like this stuff is going to sharing your expression, your perspective is an art form once you get it dialed in, and it'll last forever. So this is how I'm sharing that, to help people at least start questioning your reality rather than defending your belief systems. Before you get out there, see, that's the thing with this YouTube shit. People start getting out and any kind of expression, really, and that gets promoted, because the system will promote people even without the internet, as long as it backs up the belief systems of the world. They'll defend that. They'll defend that whole system without even knowing it. So the belief systems of the system has no intention, has no connection with the universal laws of this reality. It's not meant to do anything other than control you.
When may I expect dinner, Beulah?
Presently, Mr. Herrick. Presently.
What would the noontime be without the classic Leave It to Beulah? Beulah, who's always in the kitchen,
but never seems to know what's cooking.
Weekdays at noon.
So when you as an individual adopt a collective mind control program, what happens? That shit gets passed down per generation. This is what's happening with the parents who are having a fucked up relationship with their children, because the parents never did any inner work. The parents never thought to forgive because they didn't know how to forgive. They don't know what compassion is. Only thing they know is artificial strength. The old school generations have been brought up in survival mode. We're still in survival mode today, but we have so many things that are surrounding us that keep us from realizing that. Once you're in survival mode for so long, a lot of who and what you are gets killed. Your love, your expression, your connection. People don't even know what love between like a mother and a father is. Love between relationships. Love between your parents and your children. People don't know what that is, because the system has told you what it's supposed to be like. And that system is largely based upon subconsciously and consciously programming you into the survival mode, having no meaning and purpose reality. And once that happens, that inherently installs the battery program. It inherently installs the hatred and the destructive, self-destructive programming that allows people to just function in the society based upon the science of a battery, survival battery programming. So everything that's surrounding you that you look up to, like I said, that keeps you from realizing that program. All these holidays, the news, the politics, your school, your education system, the money programming, everything that so-called defines who you are is there to water down who you actually are, who and what you actually are, on all of the soul, the mind, and the body. You keep adopting that, you'll not only destroy yourself, but you'll destroy the generations that you produce after you.
The Kool-Aid kids in old Japan rode rickshaws everywhere. But when the kids sat down to eat, they sure did miss their favorite treat. Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid, tastes great. Wish we had some, can't wait. A story man who heard the kids then clapped his hands and said,
Hi, Kool-Aid keeps me very wise. Stand by, please, for big surprise.
Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid, so great. Once you tried it, no can wait.
Honorable Kool-Aid, most refreshing, much loved by whole family. Father, mother, Japanese boy, Japanese girl. A package make 2 full quarts. Cost only 20 yen, just 5 cents. With lots of ice, so nice.
The Kool-Aid kids are off again to visit other lands. Be sure to join them when they do.
Join them in some Kool-Aid too.
Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid, so great. Once you tried it, no can wait.
So this is another way that people are being locked in, like I was explaining earlier about, people going to the gym and all this other stuff and, focusing on their booty and all this other shit. Well, this is where all this shit originates. This is what people don't really realize. This is the garbage, the remnants of white supremacy that still exists today. Right in your face. Your kids are looking at all these pop stars trying to be like these empty ass women shaking their ass on Instagram, Facebook, television, YouTube. They're trying to be like these empty ass people. And people are celebrating it, talking about, oh, it's healthy because you're going to the gym. You might be going to the physical gym to work out your physical body. But that time you spent going to the physical gym to work out your physical body is sucking the life out of going to the non-physical gym, working on your non-physical bodies. Because people have been sucked into this fake, easy-ass interpretation of their reality that's only based upon the physical. Ass and titties. Get some fake titties, get a fake ass, and you'll be loved. Get a nice car, get a good job, and you'll be loved. You'll be successful. You have been turned into a plastic nothing. An object to be placed in a museum. An object to be mimicked. That's what's going on in this reality right now. And what happens is it's so complex, the mind control programming is so complex that we never get into knowing what's going on because we're still dealing with 10 layers away from what the core issue is. So obviously, bullying is horrible. People with something wrong with their, or they have, disfigurement. Of course, it's wrong to bully. But what's even more wrong is to use stories like this and use it to mind control masses. Not only mind control masses, but have them fight. So this is what happens. You see this kid, his video goes viral. You have Captain America inviting him and his family out to go see the screening of the Avengers. when it comes out. He's basically a celebrity now. You have this going on because of that bully video out there and him speaking out against it and so on and so forth. Great, wonderful. But what's right behind that? What will be actually presented to the masses? What will they have them fighting about? Obviously, the race programming. So you have bullying that's out there that sucks people in with the emotional body. Obviously, the majority of people who have any kind of ounce of soul in them, they're going to say something's wrong with that. We need to protect people like this boy. Then you have the healing that has never been done from the racism of this community, which is another storyline but runs simultaneously with this sort of thing, where people are going to say, why is there so much focus on this one event when you have little girls like this individual killing herself because she's been bullied? And no press will go along that. You won't have Captain America sending out some tweet for her family and all that other shit. So this is how complex this is. What happens there, they plan this. They know this is going to be the actual storyline. Then the information, a lot of these Instagram pages are being run by the government. So they have an intent there to have people fight on a shallow layer. Start talking about race against race and start talking about, how this is this and this is that. But the main thing that's happening is that people are constantly asking for the government or for the society to give a shit about them, instead of people giving a shit about themselves and letting go of this popular kid in school that is known as the mainstream society. Oh, let's be acknowledged. Let's be recognized by the popular kids in school. Fuck that. Think for yourself. Otherwise, you'll end up fighting a war that's not even worth fighting. It's an illusion. So what gets lost is that people start going back and forth fighting, oh, white, black, and then they never really go into the story of, where this stuff originates. Because this is so we obviously have to do something about bullying. We obviously have to do something about 10-year-old girls hanging themselves because of bullying. We obviously have to do something about the race relations in this country. There's so much out there. Let's just stop and let's just help this one little boy and let's just get over it. Let's just stop and let's just move on. I can't take it anymore. That's how people are. That's exactly the intent that it's chaos. Collective chaos. It's exactly where the system wants people to be. Bouncing all over the place, don't know what the hell to do, hating themselves, hating other people, and ultimately just never really making any kind of forward progress.
I'm so tired of eating dust. I've tried everything and nothing works. Is there anything that can make this car faster?
Try some of this, sport.
Cooter!
Sambo X15 is specially formulated for the way America drives. It blasts and cleans away those stubborn black deposits that rob your engine of power.
It lubricates and protects.
Listen to her purr. Thanks, Duke.
Don't thank me. Thank Sambo X15. It's what the pros use.
So that was basically a run. That's an intent. This is the intent of the system, to maintain. And it's not new. Like all these little clips that have been showing, these commercials that are out there, those are designed. Those had a particular intent. Some of them were existing, like parodies to show what's really going on here. What's going on today is the same thing that was going on back in the day. And largely it's all based upon your belief systems, controlling you, defining you, confining you. So you have the reproduction programming that's in and around your experience all day, every day. This is another expression of that. In Denmark, if you are unmarried at 25, you'll get cinnamon thrown all over you on your birthday. Shame. Shaming people in the streets because they haven't conformed to the societal norm. So you will be shamed. Same thing happens here. It just doesn't happen with cinnamon. It happens everywhere else too. Something's wrong with that person. Why? Because people have been shrunk down to the animalistic consciousness. They've been shrunk down to the mainstream philosophy. They've been shrunk down to an external interpretation of their reality that's based upon definitions that have been sent down by a mind control program based upon reproducing batteries. So the batteries, the reproductive batteries who have done their work, they had a baby, they've done their job, they can just die now because their babies are the ones that are here now. So since other people don't do that, you should shame them. It's the same thing that's going on. This society as a whole is a bully. They want to make you focus on this other stuff that's like that, to take away from the fact that the system as a whole inherently is designed to do that. It's inherently designed. You are ashamed of yourself subconsciously, consciously, and unconsciously when you think that you are a nothing that was shat out of the Big Bang. When you have no meaning and no purpose, you are born into shame. When they tell you everything about your universe, they even tell you this, born into sin, that whole Christian shit. Because you're supposed to hate yourself. You're supposed to feel guilty about everything. And if you feel guilty about everything, then you're not going to empower yourself with anything. You don't know what to empower yourself with, because nothing that you have been provided in this reality by, your parents don't know how to raise you. They weren't designed to do that. Your parents are here to be your foundation. You have to actually do the work. And a lot of the foundations of the parents are broken. They never even built a foundation because their parents never built a foundation. The work of you needs to be done by you and nobody or nothing else. Your parents don't even have a responsibility for your growth after a certain point. They're to protect you and so on and so forth. But who and what they are ultimately has nothing to do with who and what you are. On the more vibrant scales of like your soul. You come through these people that you call your parents. You come through them. You're not like an expression from every expression. Like your soul, basically your soul is more complex than the genetic makeup of your mother and your father. So when you understand that, you have a responsibility of yourself to be your own mother and father. Who is the mother and father of you individually? Non-physical you. You are. Expressed in this dense physical reality, you have a mother and a father. But they got their own shit to deal with. They got their own relationships with the soul that they have never done, largely. So how could you hold a mother and father in physical form responsible for work that needs to be done in the non-physical form of yourself? You can't. So when you understand that you as the individual soul you are the mother and father of yourself, being guided along by the mother and father of the non-physical, the balances of this reality. So you have the physical, the positive and the negative, the light and the dark. Then beyond that, you have the creative intelligence that has created more universes that are not limited to the dualistic algorithms of this reality. It's not just this universe. How I see it is that once you have maxed out the algorithms, the math that you have come here to do, that once you've hit that vibration point that you come here to do before you were born, Then you take all of the information, the energy, the work that you have done now, and you go into a universe that is sitting on the foundation of the universe that you were in just before. So you go into another universe that takes the complexities of the previous universe and adds another reality on top of that, so you can have an experience worth experiencing. Because why would you play the same movie over again if you didn't know what the hell was going on in the first movie in the first place? If you ain't figured out what's going on in the movie in the first place, then shit, you're going to have to watch it again until you get the point. Once you get the point, that's when you can actually move into another energetic space. You're doing that with lifetimes. You're doing that in every moment. You're becoming smarter. In every moment, you're becoming more connected with yourself and everybody in and around you. But if you're constantly focusing on the external interpretations of your reality, you will never even allow yourself to realize that that exists. And a big part of why people don't get there is because their external reality has been projected into their life based upon marriage and reproduction, the victim program, the bully program, the political program, the empty program, the nothing program, and the space where you have no strength. You have no ability to empower yourself. You don't know what it is to be who and what you are because you've never been alone. You've been filling yourself with busy work. This is what social media does. Social media creates a space where you're never even allowing yourself to be alone to understand what your true soul power is. So you can even go out into the woods. You can do whatever it is that you're going to do out there. A lot of people go out there, take their phone with them, do this, and then they never really get out of it because they're still in that space. The thing is, you can get out of that. You can understand what's going on and still be aware of that world. I'm not saying that it's impossible. What I'm saying is that on a macro scale, the design is to keep people from knowing who they are from the inside out. There's a power in being alone because there's a power in knowing who and what you are without having to have somebody else reflect back to you in whatever kind of perspective that they have, some kind of perspective that's going to be tainted by who and what they are. Society does that as a whole. To be separated from society, non-physically, is the main point that I'm talking about here. To be separated from a society where you don't fit in or whatever, to be separated from a society is a form of strength if that individual hasn't imploded on itself, him or herself, because of that separation. But that's difficult. It's hard to do that because the majority of people are a part of that experience. The thing is, when you get to that point, you start to see another version of yourself. That's just a deeper expression of who and what you are. It's not another expression of what you are. It's a deeper expression of who you are. See, in the New Age community sets the platform for somebody, for the individual to create another version of who and what they are. Not a deeper version of what they are. It shows it sells to the people, the individual, the facade of a deeper layer of what you are. And you could argue it's a deeper layer of what you are, but ultimately when you understand the entire intent of the New Age, you can't take it that far because you know the intent is designed to water people down, no different than the mainstream reality, to water you down and lock you into a new version of interpreting your reality. It's a sidestep. It's not a deeper, non-linear expression. It's just another linear expression just on a sidestep. So this is what's happening. And since people go out there and they, go live in the woods, or they become alone, they go alone by themselves, and they have these deep expressions of the reality, but they still haven't figured out what's going on, the intent of the program as a whole. They haven't brought it back. So what it does is that you have three options. It either festers and destroys itself and goes into a closet, or it acts like it doesn't exist and creates more problems with it, or you learn from all those experiences, don't create any belief systems, take all of that energy and information and start interpreting what's happening with this world, with you from the inside out, based upon what's going on with the entire systems that do the same thing of watering you down, watering down your culture, watering down your soul, watering down your connections with the Most High or the non-physical reality.
Vroom, vroom, vroom. Today, so I have exciting story to tell about beautiful new Ford Mustang car. And inside car, boy and mother and shopping bag. And inside bag, box of post-rice crinkles. And inside box of post-rice crinkles.
Wow, Mom, boy, oh boy. There's a Mustang car inside the rice crinkles.
Oh, no, dear. The rice crinkles are inside our Mustang.
But there is a Mustang inside the rice crinkles.
Oh, there is a Mustang inside the rice crinkles.
A Mustang just like ours.
And so, sugary rice crinkles give happy ending to story. Boy, get Mustang? You do too, inside post-rice crinkles. Collect them all, convertible, hardtop, and fastback. Race with your friends. You go vroom, vroom when you get Mustang car free inside post-rice crinkles.
Once people have been watered down, they can be controlled. Once people have had these mind control programs installed in their reality, you can be controlled, because the majority of their time will be spent, and energy will be spent fighting themselves, because they're fighting other people. So this is what happens. This is that back and forth that I was just saying. They talk about Republican tax plans and all this other stuff. You're going to have people who are limited. They have no other options but to base their lives and their interpretations of this reality off Republicans and Democrats. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way they're going to have to get out of that. Just like you had to get out of a certain mindset back in the day. Probably not that long ago for a lot of people. A lot of people still doing it every day. You think one way, and then you sit and really think and look back and say, well, shit, I didn't even create this belief system. This shit was created for me. How does this affect me? How does this affect us as a whole? Who am I? What is me? Like that whole, like all this stuff that's out there, like those questions don't get asked because people are too busy fighting about golf courses, teachers, real estate developers, and all this other shit. Not like it doesn't matter, but in the grand scheme of things, if you really want to take it that far, this is just an expression of how much that shit matters. Individually, does the Republican? No, of course not. That stuff doesn't matter. Because once you go to the depths of figuring out that this system is designed to maintain a distraction from your meaning and your purpose of the sole essence of who and what you are, then who gives a fuck about Democrats and Republicans anymore? That's just a side effect to that bullshit. That's why researching something other than the heliocentric program, researching the deeper layers of what's going on, breaking the very fabric of this synthetic universe that they've like draped over your reality. Once you break that, you're breaking yourself off into a new layer of responsibility. And the system knows that. That's why they created the New Age program, to install a new universe while people are simultaneously destroying the old universe. So you don't only have the New Age interpretation of the reality, the New Age interpretation of the universe is still based upon the heliocentric universe. So they got those assholes over there nice and safe and quiet, thinking about their dimensions and their aliens and their spaceships. Sit over there, New Agers, and shut your damn mouth in your happy-go-lucky, love and light program. Keep doing what you're doing and keep allowing us to just soak and parasite off of the people over here while you just stay over there in your happy bubble of love and light. Congratulations, you did it. Everybody else is just falling subject to their karmic timeline. They're not being genocided and taken out by a destructive intelligence that has an intent. No, that's them. Everything that's happening to them is because they asked for it. That's what the New Agers are saying. That's exactly what this program wants people to think. Because if they think like that, then every single thing that's happening in this society, it has had the sign off. It's been signed off by people saying, oh, yep, sure, that's okay. You can do that. That's fine. It's their karmic debt. You didn't do anything wrong. People who dropped the bombs, people who created these mind control programs that are designed to have people kill themselves and destroy each other. There's no creative or destructive intelligence in that. It's all about the individual and their soul contract. They're the ones who did it. There's nothing else there. That's just another way of running away, taking the responsibility out of your relationship to the next person, your brothers and sisters. So that's happening in reference to your relationship to the soul, yourself, and your relationship to everything and everybody else. That's the New Age program, like one of the biggest cores there. The other program, obviously, I went through with, I think that was, oh, no, this is the last one. The other program I went into talking about was so that was a New Age. Then you had the race and the sexes, so the masculine and the feminine, and then you have the race programming that's out there. So the race, these are all designed to make definitions of who and what you are. Do these definitions come from you, from the wisdom of your ancestors, or do they come from the colonial mind control program? The majority of mainstream of the stuff that's going on right now that people think is important is coming down from a mind control program from the colonial Western world. And people are so hopeless without that world, they don't even know that that's the problem, or that's one of the biggest problems there, to work your way back to yourself. See, people can do this individually. You can get back to yourself individually. And one way is to figure out what's going on when you're in that alone space. There's a power there. Not many people can handle it because we're so codependent on other people or whatever it is, based upon the generations before us and based upon the society as a whole. People don't know how to do that. So when you do that, you have a whole race of people, a whole culture of people who are living in fear of what? Fear of themselves. And when you're in fear of yourself, you're afraid of everything, and you're basically nothing. You have no power.
Follow the antics of America's favorite jigaboo, Cleophas, as he deals with the challenge of freedom on That's My Boy, weeknights at 6:30.
That's just me, boss. That's my boy.
Your power is based upon what the system has provided for you. So that Office Depot manager thinks he's powerful because of his position. In what? In an artificial world. So his power is artificially driven. It originates in something artificial. The United States, the democracy of the Western so-called civilization, the colonial world, is an Office Depot manager. All of this has been not only that, an Office Depot manager that's a mad scientist and a genocidal maniac who doesn't give a shit about any kind of universal laws or humanity or anything, and priding itself. And because it's priding itself and it's got some fancy clothes and it says that it's in charge of you, he's in charge of you, nobody questions that reality. And in fact, people try to mimic that reality. That's why you have all these assholes out there, these celebrities walking around talking about, I'm iced out, I'm blinged out, I'm this, I'm that. You're empty. You're dead inside. Because you don't even know the inside exists. The shit's rotting. It's killing you from the inside out. You adopt a mind control program, install it into your reality, and you call it a day. Well, that calling it a day is calling it a life. You're done. And that's the norm of this society. Meanwhile, all that shit's going down. They're having you focus on all this little bullshit that's going on with like the polar bear. I know people seen that video. It was on the trending, I think, yesterday. That skinny ass polar bear walking around all in that sad ass music talking about, we need to really start talking about climate change. Or yeah, well, if you had, why aren't there any videos? Why aren't there any videos about the Rohingya with that dramatic ass music being played on the trending page of YouTube? Why aren't there any dramatic music? Why isn't, when you look at all that shit, like even think about that ASPCA video, that in the arms or the eyes of an angel, like that whole shit. And they saw those sad face puppies and those sad face cats and all that stuff. They play that sad ass song. They want you to think and act a certain way, so you don't think about the other things that are going down. Because the other things that are going down are beneficial for the system. While simultaneously, like the dark shit that's happening to the Rohingya in Myanmar, that shit is beneficial to the system. They thrive off chaos destruction. They need that shit, and they just allow it to be. So the same thing that's beneficial in that way, the same thing is beneficial for the ASPCA bullshit, and there's polar ice caps melting and killing all the polar bears that don't have it. It's because of climate change. They use that for their benefit too. This system has zero concern for nature. Climate change, all that bullshit, they want you to focus on that because that they can make money off of that for years, decades. They can push that shit out for decades. As long as people keep believing in the heliocentric illusion, they can keep pushing out. That's why they have to push out that climate change, because it backs it up. Look at every single movie you got. You got a globe program in every single movie. You go into the theaters. Next time you go to a theater, look at the theater, and you have the theater showing you like, right, or feature presentation is going to begin. Even in most theaters, you'll have curvature programming. Well, they show like a universe in the background. They show a curved sort of planet. This is all the programming to get, just like the whole polar bear and climate change shit. They use these people. They have no heart. This parasitic consciousness has no heart.
I just gave this place a good scrubbing, but everything is still dull as dishwater. Miss Ann's gonna fret something fierce.
Hi.
Who is yo?
I'm Goldie. I'm Dusty. We're the Goldust twins.
Are you a slave to housework? Let the Goldust twins emancipate you from the burdens of cleaning. It gets everything shining like new.
Thank you, Goldie and Dusty.
Don't be a slave. Get Goldust today.
It has no compassion, zero empathy. It's only wearing the skin of a human. And because people are so vested in the reality of skin, they're vested in what things look like based upon what the system has told them. Since people are so vested into that perspective, they don't even know who and what they are. They start to mimic empty things. People are mimicking Kim Kardashian. She's a skin suit. She's an empty nothing, like the nothing in the labyrinth that just sucks the life out of everything. The Kardashian human is a skin suit around a cloud of nothing. And people are so empty themselves inside that the only thing that they can do to feel something is to mimic an empty nothing. And another intent or another reason why that empty nothing person is promoted into your reality is because as long as they promote empty nothing people in your face, they are simultaneously destroying your culture. They're destroying your relationship with your family. They're destroying your relationship with yourself. They're destroying your ability to be alone and be strong alone. They're destroying your every generation. And it's hitting all those three categories that I said earlier in this video right on the head. It destroys your culture. It destroys your ability to understand what the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the balances of this reality is. And it destroys your soul essence. Your people, your basic balance, your positive and negative balance in this reality, and your singular balance, your singular essence, who and what you are, the soul you. It just throws it out. And what happens is nothing. Nothing happens. That's beneficial. Nothing happens because nothing's moving, nothing's changing. And when nothing happens and nothing changes, then the system around you can change and the system around you can move, and you think that that's you moving. It's not. It's the system moving on purpose to dumb you down and control you in every aspect of your reality. So I'll close it out with just a quick rundown of the ego thing that I was talking about, because now you can see how we are being attacked individually on not just with race relations, not just with the LGBT and this gay agenda stuff, with just like the alien agenda. And the alien agenda is tapped into the gay agenda because the alien agenda just does the same thing that the gay agenda does with sexes. It does it with the culture. The alien agenda says we're all Pleiadians on the inside. We're all human and Andromedans and built up of all this other stuff on the inside. So, excuse me. So just forget everything else. We're all human. Everything else doesn't matter. That's why they have these people like running around talking about, I'm a genderless alien. That's who I am. There is no gender. There is no race. I'm just a Pleiadian or an Andromedan from the Orion galaxy or some shit like that. Whatever it is, they're telling you who and what you are, just in a more complex fashion. And if it's trendy, if it's catchy, people are going to eat that shit up. And that's what's going down with the New Age community. So what's locked up in all of that is the idea of the ego. So now people who have seen, like I said earlier, you have the artificial ego, and then you have what is called the ego, which is just yourself, like your geographic interpretation or geological, just to tie it into the physical reality, the ego and the geo. This is what I was thinking the other day. It's the interpretation, it's your spark, like the intelligence within your spark, your expression, your paint. You paint a certain way, you draw a certain way, you write a certain way, you color a certain way, you speak a certain way. That's what I would define as your ego, and it's constantly growing. It's just the linear expression of who and what you are, but it's not limited to that linear expression. You is more than that. You're constantly growing, but it definitely is there. There's an essence of you that's there. That's what I'm calling the ego. When you lock yourself into an artificial society, an artificial experience, that's when the artificial ego can get invented, and that's when you create another linear program that overtakes your original self and creates a new version of yourself. This is the artificial ego. This artificial ego is designed to take the hit for the original self, the original soul. And when that artificial ego takes the hit, it inherently closes down the expression of the original self. That's the intent of the New Age community, beating down the idea of the ego and saying, oh, you know, the best thing to do is just destroy your ego. The thing is, they're not telling you to, as you're destroying, they're not telling you that you're destroying the artificial version of yourself. They're just telling you to destroy the ego. The thing when they say that is that they're not telling you to amplify, to set a spark in the essence of who and what you are. They're telling you to kill your individualistic interpretation of yourself so that the end product is the watered down, alien, nothing, empty version of yourself. That's what this whole war on the ego is. And that's why you have all these gurus and these new agers and even Hollywood getting in on this shit. So the people who saw the Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, the Kurt Russell in that movie, there's going to be some spoilers in here. So if you give a shit and just turn the video off, whatever. Anyway, in that movie, Kurt Russell is Star-Lord's or Chris Pratt's father, and his name is Ego, and he is known as a celestial, a god pretty much with a little g, who can build planets, he can build universes, and he himself is a planet. He is a planet. So they're saying that the ego is a planet, but in that movie, Ego is a destructive, horrible, selfish, don't give a fuck about reality ass person who wants to destroy and plant his seed, his egotistical seed throughout the universe and destroy the universe. That's another way of what the New Age community is doing with the idea of the ego. They just want to tell you that any kind of individualistic expression of yourself is bad. It's bad. You are nothing more than a human. So just like when they told you you are nothing because you're just stardust that was shot out of the Big Bang, they're telling you you're nothing because you came from nothing. The New Age version of that, the New World version of that, is to tell you that you're nothing from the positive light. You're nothing because your nothingness is just like the nothingness of everybody else. We're just all human. We're all the same. We're all nothing. We're all an expression of the all. And since we're an expression of the all, the you that is that expression doesn't matter. You're just a nothing just like us. It's emptiness. Instead of emptiness being sold into your reality from love and light or from fear and destruction, emptiness is being sold into your reality in the form of love and light. That is the polar shift. That's the polar shift of mind control. Since people are no longer able to confine themselves to the lower vibrations of fear and destruction and war and all that other stuff, now they have to be manipulated and controlled by reversing those programs and selling you another version of the same thing. And since it's different, people are going to pride themselves and are priding themselves in that and not recognizing that it's the same program with the same intent and will have the same kind of effects just in a more complex version, because the system itself has to adjust its conscious effect based upon the consciousness of the people. They can't push too hard and they can't be too soft. They can't destroy too much and they can't create too much. They can't give you too much and they can't take away too much. It's got to be right in the middle. And all of those programs have to be just enough for you to believe into that reality, because it's you that's adopting those belief systems. It's not the system that's making you believe yourselves into those artificial universes and artificial interpretations of yourself. It's the system from the birth all the way until what we call the death. You're in somebody else's universe.
I heard you want to be a frito bandido like me. You too? Then you must sing the bandido song. Let's sing together. You just follow the bouncing Fritos corn chips bag. Ay, 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 ay. I am the frito bandido. Yay! I like Fritos corn chips. I love them, I do. I want Fritos corn chips. I'll get them from you. Ay, 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 ay. Oh, I am the frito bandito. Give me Fritos corn chips and I'll be your friend. The frito bandido, you must not offend. Now, boys and girls, you are frito bandidos too. You sing the frito bandido song and you loco for crunchy Fritos corn chips. That's nice. Munch, munch, munchy bunchy Fritos corn chips.
And what I'm saying is that the best way to combat a system like that is to reconnect with the balances. See, that's the thing. So in the New Age community, people say, well, we just need to unify. We need to come. Well, that ain't nothing but like those Miss Universes at the beginning of this video talking about, let's have peace in the Middle East. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? That's like a 10-year-old saying to another 10-year-old, I love you. Like, what the fuck what does that even mean? It's empty. So the best way to combat something that's attacking people like that with those kinds of programs is to reconnect with the essence of who and what you are. So reconnect, try to understand, and overstand the meaning and the purpose of the divine masculine and the divine feminine before you start just saying everything is just genderless. There is no only one gender. There's a million genders. You can be whatever you want. Why? Because you're God. We're all one, and everything is just water. Everything is water. There's no earth. There's no fire. There's no ether. It's just water. There's no air. It's just water. So once you're locked into that, what are you gonna do? You can't get out of it. So you have to keep building up yourself from the inside. And the only way you can do that is by finding out what the inside is. You can't find out what the inside is if you're constantly basing your life on somebody else's external version of the reality. That's why it's so important to figure out what's going on from a space of being alone. And when it's not the only way, it's one way, and it's very important on many different journeys. At some point in time, you're going to have to be alone in your thoughts, in your person, in your spirit, and so on and so forth, in order to go to the extremes of seeing what's really going on here in these mind control programs. So that's another way of disassembling these destructive mind control programs that are designed to implode you. Explode into yourself. Find out what's going on. Like, what is the divine feminine? What is the divine masculine? Who are you? Who were your people? What happened to them? How did the mind control program affect them back then? That's why I put those clips in this video, to help people see how we were affected back then and how it's still going on today. It's just a little more complex and more slick. But since it's complex and slick, people think it doesn't exist anymore. No. It exists now even more so than it did back then in those jacked up ass commercials that you're watching. It exists even more so now because not only are people not knowing that it still exists, but people are defending the idea that it doesn't exist. And that's the deepest layer to control somebody. When you have somebody defending another illusion, that's the most gangster ass shit that you can do in the universe. That's the most gangster, mafia type shit that you can do, is to create an illusion for somebody else and then have them defend the illusion for you. Them some serious ass gangsters. So until we start to see what's going on from that perspective, we won't be doing shit. You won't be doing anything but playing checkers in somebody else's 3-tiered chess game, thinking that you're making some big movements. You're not. You're entertaining yourself. And nothing's actually changing.
Can you stand it, boss? Can you take, oh, them microscopic shiners gleaming your teeth is? Go on now. That's it. All right. Now that's the power of Ducky. Ducky.
For a shine that's jigaboo bright.
So reconnect with your, start unveiling, start seeing how the system, in order to see who and what you are, you have to start disassembling this system, the system that's a part of you from the inside out. A lot of people are scared to do that because it involves changing themselves from the inside out. Once you start changing from the inside out, you start losing friends. You will start losing affiliates. You might even start losing family members, in the sense that they will start to distance themselves from you because you are now a different person. The thing is, there's nothing wrong with that, because you're not a quote unquote different person. You're just more of the original person that you always have been. You were always that person. You just didn't know it because you spent the majority of your life trying to be like what the system told you to be like. Whether it's through religion, whether it's through the race programming and the nationalism programming and all this other stuff that's out there. That's not to say that any of this stuff doesn't exist. It's just to say that it's way more complex than that. And it's designed, the overall design is to keep you from going into those complexities, because once you start going into those complexities and start activating those algorithms of yourself, that inherently starts to deactivate the algorithms of the mind control program. And once you do that, it's pretty much game over for the system once that starts to happen on a massive scale. That's why everything has to be so commercialized in Hollywood. That's why I said it's so important for people who are talking about flat earth to go deeper before you can't go deeper anymore. Go deeper before they start selling you the shallow version of it. Because if you go deeper before they start selling the shallow version, that's when you can help people not be consumed by the shallow version. If you are helping the system develop a shallow version of something that can go as deep as the essence of what the individual and this experience is, if you are selling it as the shallow version that the system will use to sell to the people as, you are doing the work for them. And you are actually more dangerous than the people who will develop those programs in the future, the mainstream flat earth in the future. You're more dangerous because you're making it more real for people. You're making their future enslavement more real, more lovable, more likable, more wonderful. Oh, flat earth going mainstream. Oh, isn't it wonderful we have a flat earth community? Everything's going to be great when everything goes flat earth. Can't wait. You'll be waiting for the rest of your life because your silly ass didn't empower yourself. You have no idea what your strength is. Ain't your fault. It's not your fault. It really isn't. Because that's the best you can do. Giving you the benefit of the doubt, that's the best you can do. That's the best you could do. Is there anything wrong with that? No, because 10 years ago, I was doing the best I could do, and I didn't know shit. I didn't know half of the shit that I know today. 10 years ago, I was working in the idea, metaphorically speaking, living in a drive-thru of McDonald's 10, 15 years ago. So, what's really going on? What's really going on here? We're all growing. We're all growing in our own way, in our own time. The intent is what matters. If you are formally a controlled opposition, whatever, do whatever it is you're going to do. You're a piece of shit in my eyes. If you're a controlled opposition and don't know it, hey, do whatever it is you're going to do. That's on you. That's on your own time. Just know that there are people who are out here doing the work that is completely different than any kind of this nothing ass empty bullshit that's being promoted by these artificial systems. And eventually, whether it's 2 weeks from now, some months from now or some years from now, you will have to face the information that the other people are starting to reveal that envelops all of this flat earth and all this conspiracy theory stuff. Eventually that work would have to be done. The sooner it's done, the better, because the longer it takes, the more people are going to consume themselves with those illusions, and the harder it's going to be to break out of that. Because now, think about it. When flat earth goes mainstream, let's just say it for tomorrow, you're going to have, for example, 50% of the so-called flat earth community, they're going to jump on board that mainstream bullshit because they didn't know that the inner work needed to be done. They're going to pride themselves. They're going to fight that fight. They're going to get involved in all that bullshit, and they're never going to go into the human story, which is the actual experience, the relationship between the experience and the experiencer. And that fight can be carried out for however many years. And within that fighting, while people, like I said earlier, while people are fighting with the race shit between this and this, they're never going to go into the essence of what the whole meaning is. Because they're fighting on that shallow layer of what the fuck is going on. They don't do anything about the inside work. And a lot of people don't know how to do that inside work because they don't know what the inside is. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier in the beginning, and I'll close it out on that. Your relationship with the non-physical, your soul, your mind, your body, the non-physical creative intelligence, your relationship with your peoples in line, not just humanity, humans and all that other stuff. It's more complex than that. Because the system, the reason why it's so difficult for me to even say that is because people are combating against it with that whole humanity thing, not even looking at the fact that racism has been used against the people. Culture vulturing and destroying of culture is a very definite weapon being used against the people. You can't look the other way and say it doesn't exist or say it doesn't have any meaning or intent. If you do, that's you playing a fucking movie for yourself. The same way people are saying, oh, there are no genders. There's just gender everything. That's another weapon that has the same intent as all this race shit that's going on. Get closer to start understanding. Don't create these shallow ass definitions of what humanity is and what all this other stuff is based upon what ancient aliens told you or what some new age guru told you. Start asking and answering these questions for yourself. Go talk to your great-great-grandparents. Go talk to your grandmother. Go research all that shit. Go see what they were going through. That goes back to what I was saying earlier in this shit. The only way you're going to see what's going on right now is if you start looking at what went on in the generations in the past. And then people will say, oh, you can't let go of the history. No, you're just a weak-minded ass person thinking that you're a warrior because you can't allow yourself to go into that work. That's work that needs to be done. You're not going to be able to heal and understand yourself if you haven't healed and understood, or at least opened up the door of forgiving, healing, and understanding and overstanding what went on with your previous generations. Because what happened to them is the same thing that's happening to us right now, just in a more complex fashion. It's just more complex. And if we don't allow ourselves to go into those complexities, we're going to limit ourselves to this destructive illusion. So that's what I wanted to get into with this video. I just really wanted to expand on the definition or my perspective of the ego. This war against the soul, the mind, and the body, and how it's existing in our everyday reality. So thank you for joining me. Thank you again to all the people who support this channel, this work. Leave comments, share the video. I really do appreciate that. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.